today. So I am here to do a coloring chat, and I will be coloring in my 30-day happiness challenge by Coco Wayo. And I am on day 6. And I am coloring this beauty here. I obviously already started. It says dance like no one is watching. So what I was going for is kind of like, like everybody's like gray and like muted in the background, and then this young lady like stands out with her crazy colors and such. So that's kind of where I'm at. But I also wanted to talk today. Me every day. I just wanted to like chat about what I've been reading this year and just kind of reading goals and such. So I'll start coloring. I'm trying to think what colors I want to do. Let's see. All right, so, and I am using Ohuhu alcohol markers in case anybody's wondering. I do put a blotter sheet underneath just because the paper is pretty thin, as you can see. It seeps through quite a lot. So today is February 22nd, and so far this year I have read 13 books, which I'm actually very proud of because I set a goal for myself for 2021 on Goodreads of 50 books for the year, and it's not even the end of February yet, and I'm already done with 13. So, sorry, I should have my Goodreads open in front of me. So I am ahead of my goal, which is fabulous. I've kind of like, hit the ground running this year with the reading. We'll see if I stay at the pace that I've been going at. If experience has taught me anything, is that I won't. But yeah. So, okay, without further ado, let's go through the books that I've read this year. And this is in no particular order. Like, they're not in the order that I've read them. But one of the books is called The Invisible Library by Genevieve Cogman, I believe. And I was not the biggest fan of this one. I thought the idea was really cool. So when I read like the synopsis of it, I was like, that's really neat. It's about this library that exists like in its own world. So there's many, many worlds, and among them exists this library, and it's filled with quote unquote the librarians. So the job of these librarians is to travel to these different universes and collect pieces of literature, whether it be a book, a short story, poem, whatever it is. So they're like trained specialists, right? So I thought it seemed really cool, kind of like a James Bond, but with literature. So I was like, neat. And it's not a standalone book. It's like a series. I can't remember how many books there are, but there's definitely more than one. I'm trying to think what color to do. But it just like drew out, it is a fantasy, which I don't have the most amount of experience with fantasy, but I figured I could give it a shot. It just wasn't for me. I did finish the entire book. I did not DNF it, but I will not be reaching for the other ones in the series. I'm glad I finished it, but I could not really get into the world, and then some of the characters were like super dramatic, and some of the interactions were like unnecessarily dramatic. So yeah, it's all right. If anybody else has read it, like, what were your thoughts? Were the other ones better? Like, is this one of those books where the first one is meh, but then it gets better? Because if that's the case, then maybe I can give another one of them a try. But yeah, it was okay. Next book that I read is called When the Air Hits Your Brain, and it's Tales of Neurosurgery. And sorry, let me just click on the book so I can tell you who the author is. It is by Frank T. Vertasek, And this is nonfiction, so it's stories by a neurosurgeon about like his experiences in med school, what it was like what he learned, some of the stories, some of the crazy instances that he's seen. And I actually really liked this book. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I did it on audiobook. I was trying to remember if I actually like read it, or if I listened to it. I listened to it. And I enjoyed it. I think I gave it like 4 stars or 3 stars. It was interesting. It was good stories. It is, I'm trying to think. I think he was a doctor in like the 70s or 80s. So it's really interesting because he talks a lot about like, you know, pretty much smoking cigarettes in the operation room. Well, I don't think they smoked in the operation room, but it was just very interesting, and I did enjoy it. Some of the stories were really funny. You know, some were very heartbreaking because obviously, like, brain cancer, you know, it happens, and he does discuss it, and I really enjoyed it. I am doing a reading challenge with one of my friends where we have, like, different categories, and we'll read various books that will qualify for these categories and check it off. So being like, okay, I read something from this category, all set. And this was for my biography / autobiography category. I would recommend it if you're interested in like medical things or you just like a good biography. I enjoyed it. It was very fast paced. It's not a long book. And yeah, you get to hear his life story from him going into med school, also including like why he went into med school, to the end of his career and kind of what he learned and what he took away from it. So would recommend this one. From there, oh, my list collapsed. Goodness gracious. From there, I listened to Mockingjay by Susan Collins. So this is the last book in the Hunger Games trilogy. She did release a book, I believe in 2020, that's like a prequel to the Hunger Games, but I honestly did not hear a single good thing about that book. Multiple people were kind of saying it was unnecessary. They didn't gain any really real information from it. So I'm not exactly rushing to read it. Maybe in the future I will at some point because I did really like the Hunger Games trilogy, but again, I just heard this was not one of her best works. So, yeah, I enjoyed the books. I only saw the first movie because it's the only one that is available for free on Amazon Prime. I do want to watch the other 2 movies, but something about paying for a movie on Amazon really like irks me. I don't know why. I'm just so used to like everything being on some streaming platform. So maybe if those movies go on Amazon Prime one of these days, then I'll watch them. But I think everybody knows the Hunger Games, right? Really interesting. I do have to say, like, some of the characters I found to be a tad not my favorite, but you can't love everybody in a series. Yeah. I'm glad I finished the trilogy. I enjoyed it. I don't think I'll be rereading it, but it was good. I believe I give that one 5 out of 5, if I remember correctly. Then I read Gillian, I think it's Gillian Flynn, Sharp Objects by her, and I really enjoyed this book. It's like a thriller, suspense, not mystery, definitely like a thriller suspense book. It follows this woman who is asked by her boss to go to her hometown and to write a series of articles about some murders that have been happening in that town. So she's reluctant, but she goes back to the town and she starts kind of uncovering what was happening, why it was happening. And it also involves a lot of family drama and, you know, just the inner workings of a household and such. So this is, I can't remember if it's a show or a movie now. I think it's a movie, but it's definitely been adapted to something. And I liked it. I really, really liked it. I think I had given it 5 stars, if I remember correctly. I like these kind of books. So I like a good suspense book. I don't like blood and guts when it comes to scary things, but a suspense where you don't really know what's going to happen, like is it this person, is it this person, that I enjoy. Oh, also I will not be giving any spoilers, so no worries. This is kind of similar in the suspense aspect of it to like maybe Gone Girl. So if you enjoyed Gone Girl, then you would probably enjoy this one as well. I will definitely be reading more books by this author. I really liked her style of writing. I'm assuming it's a woman, Gillian Flynn, right? I will definitely be reading other things by her, but it was kind of creeping me out, so I had to not read it when it was dark out. But this is also me being super scared of my own shadow. So if you're not a scaredy cat like I am, you will probably be fine. But I did enjoy the book. I read it really quickly. But yeah, just, I'm a scaredy cat. I can't help it. Always have been like that and probably always will. I didn't realize this color was going to be so blue. Gosh darn it. It's fine. And then after that, I read, speaking of me being an absolute scaredy cat, I read The Chain by Adrienne McKinty. And this is actually a book that I saw on somebody's channel, and they were talking about their disappointing books of 2020. And just, she described it and she was saying how she didn't love it, but the plot just sounded really cool to me, so I ended up reading it and I actually enjoyed it quite a lot. So it follows this woman who gets a call saying that your daughter has been kidnapped. And of course, the mother's like, oh my goodness, like, what are you talking about? And the daughter is kidnapped as part of the Chain, which is not an organization, because I don't want to make it sound like the Boy Scouts or something, but somebody kidnaps your child, right? And the only way you can get the child back is to pay a ransom, which is specified to you, and also kidnap somebody else's child. So it's a chain in the fact that you are continuing it, right? And you can't break it. If you do, you are threatened. You are told that they will kill you, that will kill the child that is still kidnapped. Oh, I painted on his face. No. This is what I get. I got too distracted by talking about books. It's fine. And this book is actually really neat in the fact that it takes place in partially Boston and partially New Hampshire, which is where I was living when I was in the States. So I really enjoyed seeing that, because they also talked about like parts of Boston where I've been, where I've lived, and obviously I don't really want to I don't want to say associate with it's not a book where you want to put yourself in the position of the characters, because it deals with, kidnappings and just stress and a completely awful time in somebody's life. But it was just interesting to see places that I've been mentioned. I don't know if that makes sense. Does anybody else ever read a book and it talks about where you've been and you kind of ooh, I know exactly what you're talking about. But yeah, I enjoyed this book. It was just funny that I found it through somebody's 2020 disappointing video. But I liked it. Was it my favorite book ever? No. Will I be seeking out other books by the author? I don't know. But I did enjoy it for the time that I was reading it. This is another one that I couldn't really read in the dark because it was so scary. But, and it does get kind of dramatic in the end. I won't spoil it, but it does get dramatic in the end. Alrighty. Moving right along, I read a book that I loved. I know I gave 5 stars to this one. And it is called A Curse So Dark and Lonely. Let me pull up the author. Bridget Kemmerer. Sounds like I'm just slurring my words. But yes, A Curse So Dark and Lonely. Fabulous. Loved that book to pieces. It is Beauty and the Beast retelling in a way, in that the baseline, kind of the main idea, is Beauty and the Beast themed. You know, there's a beast, there's a female character who comes along and tries to solve the situation or gets involved in the situation. But you know, it's not a direct retelling. Just because you know Beauty and the Beast does not mean you know what's going to happen in the story. It is a trilogy. The 3rd book is coming out quite shortly, if I'm not mistaken. The 2nd book is already out. This is definitely a book I'll be seeking out and reading because I enjoyed it so much. 5 stars. The characters were so interesting. There were so many witty banter and just amazing conversations where I would honestly laugh out loud or like do the awkward grunt to myself when something was really funny or surprising. I loved it. I think the character development is fabulous. The storyline is very interesting because I kind of went in thinking that I knew what was going to happen because obviously I've read Beauty and the Beast. You know, I've seen the many Disney adaptations of it. But no. It's amazing. If you can get your hands on it, I would highly recommend it. It is on the thicker side, if I'm not mistaken. It is a fantasy, but it is very easy to grasp. You understand the world quite easily, and it's amazing. And at the same time that I was reading that, I was actually reading another Beauty and the Beast adaptation, and that wasn't me like going on a Beauty and the Beast mission or anything. I put books on hold at the library, and so it just happened that both of them became available at the exact same time. Because this one, The Curse So Dark and Lonely, the wait was like a month or something. So I just put it on hold and I figured, you know, when it's available, then it's available. And it just happened to be available at the exact same time as another Beauty and the Beast retelling that I wanted to take a look at, which is called As Old as Time, and it's by, let's see, Liz Broswell. So Disney is coming out with a range, or has started coming out with a range of retellings of the classic stories, like Cinderella. I believe there's a Little Mermaid one, this one. I think there's also an Aladdin retelling. This is the only one from that series that I have read. I actually listened to it on audiobook, and it was really interesting. So this one and A Curse So Dark and Lonely, I was, you know, reading / experiencing at the same time, and it was just crazy how much more I had enjoyed A Curse So Dark and Lonely as compared to As Old as Time by Liz Broswell. This one just seemed more juvenile to me, and maybe it is, like, you know, maybe it's just aimed at a younger audience. Nothing wrong with that, but it just wasn't hitting the same level for me as the other book was. I did finish it. I did not DNF it. It follows, again, there's a beast, there is a female character. I forgot I'm supposed to be coloring. Please excuse me. And Belle, the female character, her name is Belle in this one, she finds out that the person that cursed the beast was actually her mother. So they live in the world where magic is possible. There's wizards and witches. They call them something else. I can't remember the word now. But the person that had cursed the beast was her mother. So her and the beast work together to try and figure out what can be done and how to fix the situation. So that's kind of the quick summary of it. It was all right. I think Liz Broswell wrote some of the other adaptations for this series for Disney. I don't think I'll be seeking it out. I'll be honest. I finished this one. I was glad when it was done. I think I gave it like 3 stars. It wasn't terrible or anything, but just in comparison to the other Beauty and the Beast retelling that I was reading at the time, this one did not. It was just not on the same level. And then, let's see what else I've read. I wanted to read a romance. And when I say I wanted to read a romance, I am not a romance book kind of person. I find most romances to be incredibly cringy and just not enjoyable. Like, they like make me uncomfortable, and just I find most of them incredibly unrealistic. So, as I mentioned, my friend and I have the challenge of, reading from, for example, various authors, but also various types of books. And it's meant as a way to get both of us out of our comfort zones and read things that maybe on a normal we wouldn't. Like, I read that book about the neurosurgery that I was talking about earlier. It's not something I would usually gravitate towards, but I wanted to, check off that category in our little list that we have going. And I'm glad I did, because I did enjoy that book. So romance is on the list for us to read for this little challenge thing. So I picked up a book called Hygge and Kisses, and it's by Clara Christensen. And Hygge is something that I have mentioned on my channel before. It's a Danish concept of coziness and just being truly happy and relaxed and content and happy. And this book was exactly that. It was so cozy. It was a super easy read. I genuinely was drawn to it. Like, I couldn't wait to pick it up again. And was it groundbreaking? No, but it was very nice. It's about this main character. She lives in, I want to say, London, and she gets laid off from her job, and she's just depressed. Obviously she lost her job, and she's in a weird, like, not relationship, but a weird situation, kind of relationship with this guy that she really likes. So her roommate suggests that they take a trip to Denmark to her mother's cabin, and there they meet people, and it just kind of goes from there. It is a romance, but it is, I enjoyed it. It wasn't cringy. It was cozy. It wasn't unrealistic. It was right up my alley. I looked into getting more books from this author. Unfortunately, this is the only book by this author that my library has, but I definitely added, I think she has maybe one other book to my list that I want to read. I just enjoyed it. It was easy breezy, very cozy. I made a habit of reading it with like a mug of tea in my hand, and just, yeah, it was delightful. Would recommend it if you're somebody who kind of struggles with reading romances because you think they are so cringy. just like I do, maybe give this one a shot. Romance is involved in the story, but it's not the main point, and it's not like grotesquely thrown at your face where you, I don't know, feel like you need a shower after. Like, this is a very nice book. And a book that I've actually seen around a lot, and I know it's been adapted into a show, is called, this is looking horrendous. That's not the name of the book. The book is called Big Little Lies by Liana Moriarty. And this has been adapted into a show that includes some powerhouse actresses, such as Reese Witherspoon. I love her. Honestly, anything with her in it, I will watch, and I am 100% behind. So this book follows a group of women in a small town in Australia, and it's just kind of, you know, the things that happen behind closed doors of a house that you might not see. You know, sometimes things seem perfect, but you don't really know what somebody's going through or what they've been through, and this is kind of what the book talks about. It mainly focuses on a kindergarten because all these women are united, or they know each other through this kindergarten because their children go there. And it's called Big Little Lies. It's because it's about, you know, the little lies that you tell yourself on a daily basis, or you tell to other people. This looks awful. Oh my goodness. Oh, this is embarrassing. That did not make it any better. We're just gonna move on from that. So it's about the little lies that everybody tells themselves, and it's called Big Little Lies because, you know, it just kind of compiles, and you kind of see where it leads with these characters. So I thought this book was wonderful. I got through it quite quickly because I enjoyed it so much. I'm pretty sure Liane Moriarty has a good amount of other books. This is the only one I've ever read by her, but because I enjoyed the story so much, I would definitely be interested in reading more from her. But also, speaking of books that we usually wouldn't go for, I read The Invisible Women, Data Bias in a World Designed for Men. And this is a nonfiction by Caroline Criado Perez. I apologize, I'm probably completely butchering that. But she did a lot of research on what is called the gender data gap, about how data is missing on females in things from medical research to like research done for law enforcement or law creation of policies. And she talks about, you know, the history of it, kind of why things are done the way they are. And this book was really interesting. It is very number heavy. Not in the fact that she makes you do math problems, but she mentions numbers and statistics and ratios and dates. So if you're not somebody who likes to hear about studies and the results of studies and numbers, results, this is 1000% not for you. But I think if you can either enjoy the numbers, because I'm a weirdo and I enjoyed hearing all the numbers, but you can maybe get past all the numbers and see the bigger point that she is trying to make. I really valued this book. I thought it was very interesting, and a lot of the things that she talked about, I had never even thought about. So it was really interesting, would recommend it, but again, it's very number heavy. If that's not for you, this is not for you. But I gave it 4 stars because I did really enjoy it, but I thought it was a tad long. It's a pretty big book. I did listen to it, which I think helped. If I had actually physically read it, I think even I would have gotten bored with all the numbers that she mentions. But on audiobook, it was definitely a better experience. And she's actually the person that reads the book to you in the audiobook. So very nice, very, very good points, and very valuable information and educational. From there, I moved on to something that was definitely not educational and kind of another like fluffy, light read. And it is called The Christmas Wish List by Heidi Swain. Not usually something I would go for, but I was in a cozy wozy kind of mood, and I figured, why not? And I actually read this, I believe, in February, so it was definitely not Christmas time anymore, but I had enjoyed Who Got Kisses so much, and that was a very like cozy wozy, let's all snuggle up on the couch with a nice cup of hot cocoa kind of book, that I wanted something along those lines. So I read this, and according to Goodreads, Heidi Swain, the author, is known as the queen of feel-good books. Because it is. It just makes you feel all nice and kind of, I don't know, just appreciate the small things, I guess. I know this sounds super tacky, you're probably like rolling your eyes, but I enjoyed it. And it follows this woman who also gets laid off from her work. I don't know why I read so many books about people getting fired, but she gets laid off from her job. And so she has time off, and she decides to go stay with one of her friends for the Christmas holidays. This is in England, and her friend, who is actually like 40 years older than her, I think, or 60 years older. Her friend is significantly older than her. Let's just say that. So I think it was a very interesting friendship. I enjoy the dynamics of it. So the main character goes out to stay for the Christmas holidays with this friend, and she contemplates a lot about her life choices, as well as her estranged relationship with her parents and her relationship with her boyfriend, who she thinks is on the verge of proposing to her. And it also, goes into the traditions of Christmas and what they truly mean to some people, how a lot of the time we have taken things for granted when it comes to the holidays. And I really liked it. It was cozy wozy, like I had wanted it to be. I read it. I did not listen to it. Is it an amazing work of art? Is it the next Handmaid's Tale? No, but it was enjoyable. I gave it 3 stars just because it did get a little long for me, and it was on the cheesy side, I'll be honest, but I got what I wanted from it. Yeah, it was enjoyable. All right, this picture looks like caca, but it happens. Let's put the date down here. Today is the 22nd. Yes, 21. It's a lot of 2s. And then I have also read 2 more books. Let's see. So I finished this one. I feel like this is like also a video of whips, because this was a work in progress. Let me get another one that I have. The next whip is in my Square Mandalas book by Bilba Family. This is a recent purchase, and I've been absolutely loving it. And this is the mandala I'm working on, so I only have 1 color left to finish up. So I figured I could maybe work on this while we finish my 13 books that I read so far this year. So a book that I read, did I read or did I listen to it? I think I listened to it, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I listened to it. This one is a weird one. I don't really know how to describe it, but it's called The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. Yeah, it's an odd one, but I enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. This book is by Grady Hendrix. It follows a group of women in the South that are in a book club together. So it talks a lot about the family structure, and this takes place, I believe, in the 80s. Maybe not. Yeah, I think 80s. So, the family structure, kind of who wears the pants in the household and such. Can you even see? Because I know it's like very light color. Um, and yeah, so these women are in this book club, and this man moves into the neighborhood, which kind of shakes them a bit because they know everybody. It's a neighborhood where you never lock your door. People can just come into your house and see if you're okay if you don't answer the door, and that's considered normal because it's such a tight-knit community and everybody just knows everybody. So there's a newcomer, and he kind of changes some things, and some people are apprehensive about his presence, some people love him, and weird things start to happen. Children start to disappear, or children will start becoming very ill and then injuring themselves on purpose. So it's a very weird read because, like, not mythical things are happening, but kind of things are happening that you're like, is this the real world? Like, is there magic in this world? And you don't know. It's very suspenseful. And I really liked it. It's definitely a weird one. I don't know how to describe it, but weird. But I did like it. It is also on the thicker side. It takes place over a course of years. I think part 2 is like 3 years after part 1, but it's in the same book. Like, this book just is spread across a prolonged period of time. I liked it. I don't know any other books by this author, but oh my goodness, I'm stuttering for words. Goodreads describes it as Steel Magnolias meets Dracula in the southern flavored supernatural thriller set in the 90s. Okay, so it is the 90s. Okay. It's lovely. If you want something a little different, and if, Steel Magnolias plus Dracula sounds interesting to you, perhaps this is a good one. I liked it. 5 stars from me. And moving on to a book most people probably have heard of and is definitely less of a light read. It's The Tattooist of Auschwitz, and it's by Heather Morris. This is a true story. It's about this man who ends up being taken to Auschwitz, and he speaks multiple languages, so he becomes the tattooist. So it means is that he tattoos the people that are taken into Auschwitz and Birkenau. So he's the person that tattooed the captives. He's a captive himself, so it follows his story, like about his life, but also his time in the camp, which is multiple years. And he meets a woman while he's there. He tattoos the woman, and it's their love story. And again, I'm not spoiling anything. This is in the little description of the book. I promise. I'm not taking anything away from you. I have actually seen this book in stores before, and it sounded so interesting to me that I remember taking a picture of the cover on my phone and being like, I should look into this book later and see if I can get it from the library to read. And I finally found it in a library, and it was definitely a hard read. As you would expect, it's a World War II book, but honestly, I didn't know what I was signing up for. I knew it was World War II. I knew it had to do with Auschwitz. However, I should really start reading the description of books before I dedicate the time to read them, because this is about the development of the relationship between the main character, the gentleman who tattoos other people, and this woman that he meets. And like I had mentioned, I am not a romance novel, romance story kind of gal. Like, I'm just not. So I think my enjoyment of this book and this story was not the fullest extent because I didn't know what I was signing up for. And that is 100% my fault. The story was incredible. It was heartbreaking. It was very educational as well. However, I just don't enjoy romance stories. I don't. So I gave it a 3 out of 5. Again, I am glad I read it. I do not regret reading it. However, it's not what I thought it was going to be. And that's on me. But there's actually a second book that I didn't know existed that follows one of the characters that you meet in this book, and it's her story. So I think I will give that one a try because I was really interested in the character in this book, and the book that is dedicated to her just sounds really interesting. So I think I will seek it out because, again, I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the educational aspect of it as well. But just, I don't know, something about romances, not for me. But that is actually it. That's the 13 books I've read so far in 2021. I am currently reading 3 books. I am listening to a book about Chernobyl. It's a nonfiction. I am reading Norwegian Wood. I forget the name of the author. It's a Japanese author. I am reading that for my Works book club. And I'm also reading The Duke and I, which is the book that's behind the Bridgerton series. Yeah, so those are the 3 books that I currently have in the works. I've been really loving reading this year so far. I have a Kindle that I bought myself end of last year that I have been absolutely obsessed with. So if you consider getting a Kindle, I would recommend it. But yes, thank you so much for watching. And if you've read any of these books or if you have a recommendation based on what I've mentioned, please just let me know down below. And I'll see everybody in the next one. Bye.